The problem is that I still don't have a flat tooth. Or
Really?
I'm filming. Rude. Do we want to do our walk first? Do you want to take a walk?
I want to go for a walk. I want to go for a walk.
I wish I was bright. Wow. I think I need a dice tray. Hello, and welcome back to Babs Labs. I'm Babs. This is the Labs. Something looked different, or... Nah. Anyway, I recently saw a video over on Tamar's channel, 3x3 Woodworking, where she used her laser to create some geometric designs with veneer pieces, and I really loved how that looked, and I happen to have a bunch of veneer from various things that need something to do. We took this as a fun little opportunity to make some D&D dice boxes. I feel like this will be a fun little practice in kind of just working with geometric patterns, working with smaller bits of veneer, and learning some new tricks on how I can decorate future projects. So very roughly, our steps are going to be to cut this board in half. This length alone should be enough to make the four sides for 2 dice boxes. True up the long edges, and then we'll cut the 45-degree miters to be able to bring this together into a box. We're just going to use blue tape for clamping. Once the glue up is done, we're going to go ahead and work on the top panels, or top and bottom panels, which will just be made out of this plywood that I have left over. No matter what, we're going to have fun with it. Even if it kills me. Especially if it kills me. overall, that went really well. The problem is I don't have a flat top blade yet. So you can see we have these beautiful sawtooth patterns left behind. Given that we already have such little surface area to glue the panels onto, I need to remove those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set all of these up so I can run them against the fence this way, and we're going to raise the saw blade up just barely under this line, and we're going to trim those off. Since we are planning on doing an inlay on the top anyway, because kind of assume that these gaps are going to be a little bit bigger than we would want, I'm not worried if there's a little bit of mistake made here. It should be recoverable. I'm going to go ahead and say that turned out way better than expected. Yeah. Tiny bit of cleanup to do, but nothing that a quick run through with a chisel won't handle. Excellent. So we're not going to go crazy with sanding the inside of the box. I'm just going to do 120 and then go right to 220. Because that's all I feel like doing. That's all that's really necessary for this. I've had people question my use of Purple Heart in projects before. Their concern is that they've heard that Purple Heart turns brown over time and, you know, loses some of its color. I've had these for 6 or 7 years, and they still have a very lovely color. So if you have Purple Heart that's been finished and it's sitting in your home and not being exposed to sunlight all the time, it's not going to brown as quickly as you might be concerned about. And even when it starts to brown, it still looks really pretty. To try to make our lives a little bit easier, we're going to wax the inside faces before we do the glue up. That way we're not trying to wax it after the fact. I'm also hoping that by doing so, any squeeze out on the inside corners will be easily removable because it won't be able to soak into the wood. Just trying to make things a little easier on ourselves. This almost smells a little bit vanilla-y. Yeah.
That makes sense. It's for like food grade.
This stuff is supposed to be very much so just you can wipe it on and then immediately use it. I'm going to kind of put it on a tiny bit heavy because I'm only going to do one coat. Let it sit for 10 minutes or so, and then just buff it slightly. I'm also trying to really work it into all of the grain, make sure that the wood is sealed nicely. Really enjoying the color. The first box is glued up, and I was getting ready to do the second box, and I was about to drive myself crazy because I was getting these two grain patterns to match up, and then these grain patterns were just not aligning. And then I remembered that these two blocks came off of a different board. That's absolutely fine. I wasn't trying to specifically like make this a full wraparound box. Yeah, I forgot that I had pulled boards from different sources, and it was nice to remember because I was like, why isn't this working? Why is it? What did I do wrong?
The next morning.
Alright, let these sit overnight. Are gonna pull the tape off and look at how they turned out. I'm already pretty happy just with the way that they look in the daylight, and the wax finish on the inside is quite nice. It's a salad bowl and butcher block finish, but it's also supposed to like cure nicely. I'm sorry, I was just distracted by how nice that corner looks.
I know, that's why I made a little.
Whoa! Whoa! And again, I didn't mill these down. I thought about milling them down, but I was concerned since they were already such thin pieces of wood that it would either not work well in the planer or I'd remove so much material that they wouldn't be sturdy enough to use. A little bit of glue squeeze out, but not bad. Really not bad. Alright, let's do the second one. This is always fun. So corner, the first one. That one, we've got a little bit of a goof up there, but that was my fault. I dropped this piece, and it landed like almost perfectly on that corner and dented / chipped it, but, you know, gives it some character. I have this problem as a woodworker who does things in my small shop, where if it doesn't come out looking like it was manufactured by precise machines, I'm like, I'm just not good at what I do. And I need to get over that, because part of the nicety of doing things myself is the character of it looking handmade. I figured it'd be fun to give the dice boxes a little bit of visual interest, so we're going to cut out a bunch of little shapes in the laser, and we're going to use some fun veneers to do so. The veneers in question, these. I don't know what any of them are right off the top of my head. Try to guess in the comments below what these different woods are. And no, this one is not dyed. These are all their natural colors. That might be paddock. Paddock?
Isn't paddock a fish? No, that's haddock.
I wouldn't want to put a fish in the laser. But I would want to put a laser on a fish.
It's not how you make locks.
Alrighty, let's remove all of my magnets. Whoa!
That's so satisfying.
That is very sad. Those are going to be so small and finicky to work with. That's cool. I wonder if there's some way I can incorporate that in a later something. We should have done them bigger. It's okay. People love watching people suffer. So when I'm taping these all together to make our little pattern, and I'm smiling the whole time, because I love it, tedium. I want to push on it, but I'm scared to push on it. I'm also stupidly trying to save this grid a little bit, and I think I need to give up on that, because, like, it's cool. Whoa. Oh, beans. There we go. Again, we have low poly sawdust. We have a reference edge. Look at that. All right, we've got 2 rows done, and I'm just laying out these squares and labeling which rows they're going to be just so I remember which one to start. As simple as this may look, it's really easy to just kind of get in the zone, start putting together a row, and then realize that it's not in the order it's supposed to be. The second row, I had to take apart 2 different times because I kind of just went on autopilot and then messed it up. So labeling the start should make that a little easier on me.
A while later.
I finished 1 square. Very loosely, that's what it's going to look like. I guess I didn't technically finish the square. I still have to tape the square together, but these 2 are taped together. A lot of tape on there. So now I get to put these together, and then we have 1 square done, and then we only have 1 square left to make. We're so close. We're so close. We have 2 now. We have 2 panels. That felt like it took longer than it did. But relatively speaking, it was a couple hours?
Not even.
Obviously, we still have to do the glue up. We have to glue these onto the panel that's going to become the inset for the lids for the boxes. Obviously, this would be at the top as a lid, but just looking at the colors and the pattern together, I'm already really pleased with this. This looks cool as heck, and I'm very excited to get this all glued up and actually have it together.
forbidden layer cake.
Alright, we got the clamps on. No pressure.
Under pressure.
Because the clamps is pressure. We'll come back to this in the morning, and I'm going to just not think about it all night and hope that when we remove these clamps, it's just nothing but beautiful, and we get to go, yay, wow, look at this, amazing, yay. And then hopefully cutting things to size and getting them in the box, and then the even more terrifying cutting the lid off. Stay tuned. Okay. That's definitely glue.
Nice.
It's not all fully cured yet.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet it's because of the dye. I probably should have put a little less in. Pulling that blue tape off is going to be a problem. What I am noticing is there's little bits where it's not as flat to the material as I would like, but we're trimming off some of the sides anyway, so hopefully that won't be a problem. Well, I'm getting the feeling that I'm going to have to go grab a pair of tweezers and engage in some more tedium. Getting down to the last few pieces of tape. Already can see, and we're going to have some sanding to do, but I'm overall pretty pleased with how this is currently looking. That looks pretty darn good. Ah! And I really do think that dyeing the glue a little bit was a good idea, because there was a decent chunk missing on one of these, and it seemed so obvious before, and now I just can't find it. Yeah, no, dyeing the glue, excellent idea. I think maybe I still added a little bit too much tint because the glue didn't, like, where there were bigger globs, it didn't, like, fully harden. But at least for the purposes of this, it's perfectly fine, and yeah. Alright, but we gotta get these trimmed up now. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, yeah. Wow. We have thinned that veneer out a lot. Okay, yeah. Note to self, be careful. Alright, with the patterns all the way sanded, they're nice and smooth. We've cleaned them up a little bit. We have not applied any finish. We're getting ready to glue the panels into the boxes. So I've taped off the edges so that we still have unfinished wood for the glue to adhere to. And then we're just going to wax the rest of the panel. That way any squeeze out that gets on this part of the panel will be easy to clean off. Hopefully easy to clean off. Especially since once everything's glued up, we're not really going to be able to get in there and catch any last bits. So we're going to go ahead and glue both panels on. And then once that's done, do a little bit of touch-up sanding that we're going to need to do. And then we get to cut the boxes open. So, you know, something truly terrifying. And before we cut the boxes open, we have to do a little bit of inlay work. Partially because it'll look nice, partially because it just tidies everything up. I guess I should stop stalling and start gluing. I'm just nervous. That sounds like a box. Ran into a little bit of a hiccup with doing the inlays on the top. What I had originally planned to do was cut 2 of the slots for the inlays, put those inlays in, and then rotate the box, cut the other slots, so that we could just cut through the previously laid inlays to put the next ones. Well, in my infinite wisdom, I had adjusted the table saw fence to cut some other things after cutting these slots, and I don't trust that I can put it back exactly where it was before. So we are cutting out slots in these inlays with a Dremel. It's a little finicky, but it feels like the safest approach to cutting out that extra material. Sanding went way better than I'd hoped, and my silly little jig to sand down these edges without chewing into our veneered pattern worked better than I could have hoped for, so that was a huge relief. Just finished going over the boxes with 220. I ended up redoing the sides since the jig for sanding the top here rubbed against here, and I just wanted to clean that up. We're just going to ease over all the edges, and then we get to do the part that I'm really terrified to do, which is cut these open, because it's kind of scary, I guess. I don't know. We're almost there. We're almost there. I'm going to use a flush trim saw to finish cutting this box open, as well as this one. Then a little bit more sanding. Gluing in the inserts for the lid tops, and then then we're done. Ah!
Da-da-da-da.
Off camera, I went ahead and did a little bit more work on the boxes. I added these little strips to the insides of the lids. They protrude just enough that the lid can friction fit back onto the box. It's tight enough of a seal that it doesn't just pop off, so good for traveling now. I sanded everything back to 220. We're going to be finishing the boxes with the same salad bowl wax finish that we used on the inside, and I am going to do another coat on the inside because I had to do a little bit of sanding to remove the little bit of glue squeeze out that was there. I'm excited to finish this project. I'm excited to put the finish on this project, and I am excited to be finished with this project. Are you ready? So these have been sitting overnight. The finish is cured, and ta-da! I am thrilled with how these have turned out. The Purple Heart looks so fantastic. The matte finish on these that the wax provides, just, it looks so good. I love how it looks. I love that it's not super glossy. It doesn't show fingerprints. They just look good. I'm really happy with them. I'm thrilled that we were able to do this design, and I hope that you also enjoy how these look. Also, if you noticed, I'm in a different location. I didn't really address it throughout the video because I was focusing on just getting these done, but I moved. And with moving, I have had to kind of figure out how to make my shop work in a space that is sized differently. So things will continue to kind of get rearranged in the upcoming videos, so bear with me while I figure out what works best. Real quick, I wanted to take a moment to first and foremost say thank you to everybody who's watching. We're already at a point where we have in the hundreds of people consistently watching these videos, and I don't even know what to say about that. This has been like a pipe dream of mine the whole time, so seeing it turn into something is just, it's very heartwarming. It's very heartwarming, even when my lights fail. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the kind of very real, kind of plucky style that we have going on. I'm trying to just be open and honest about woodworking and doing projects in general. And thank you for liking and interacting with the comments and sharing these videos. I do try to go through and read everything that everybody writes, and I do try to reply. And I just really appreciate the support that you are all providing. So thank you very much for that. And I hope that you all continue to watch, because I would love to keep doing silly things and making interesting projects. That being said, if you have any ideas or things that you would like to see, please feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll do my best to see what I can incorporate, because with this being a community-driven thing, I want to do things that my community would like to see. So, bye-bye! Oh,